Okay, so that's while. Now let's take a look at for. For is a different looping mechanism. And here's the general syntax. And we also introduce range here, which is kind of a weird function, as you'll see. So we have a number of keywords in the syntax. For is a keyword. In is a keyword. This int underscore var is just a made up variable name. You can call this anything that you want. And this is some sort of well, in this case, we're going to use the range function. What range does, range counts, and it starts at 0, and it will continue. It'll count all the way up to the value, to the stop value, right? So if you use range in a for statement like this, and you say for int in range up to 5, what that means is it'll go through it 4 times. Range initially will be 0, then range will be 1, then range will be 2, then range will be 3, then range will be 4. Intuitively, it seems to me that it should work from 1 to 5, but unfortunately, or depending on your perspective, Python starts counting at 0, which is not unique to Python. It's not like that in R. In R, it starts counting at 1, but in Python, you start counting at 0. So range stops when you get to what appears to be the upper limit. When this int var is 5, there we go. User malfunction. Okay, I got it back on. So we were talking about range. Sorry about that. I was talking along and I didn't realize the mic, the plug came out of the mic, so you couldn't hear me. Okay, so again,
range. Hear you. Thank you.
Yeah, you can now. You have to have a stop value with range, and stop is going to be the upper limit. But you can also have start here. Let's take a look at range and help. I think start has a default value of 0. Let's take a look at this. Right. So when you do this, when you call up a function and it's got a lot of documentation, you get this funky little message that says squeezed text, 83 lines. You got to double click on that to open it up. Okay. So here's range, and this is actually the class. You can do all this different stuff. And here is the general, start. It doesn't say it here, I guess, but start defaults to 0, even though that's not clear. I guess in the examples it is. You've got to have the stop value, and then you can step through the stop value. And again, this is optional. You can step through the stop value in whatever increments you have here under step. Okay, so you can run range with just a stop value. You can run range with just a start and a stop value, or you can run range with a start, stop, and a step value as well. And if you do, this is the example of not the output, but this will be the values that will be, I guess I should say, invoked when you run through the range. If you say range 5, range will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, range 1 to 6. So it's starting, you're forcing it to start at 1, and it'll go all the way up to 6, but not include 6. Okay, so the upper value or the stop value is always excluded. You got to remember that. And I know the first few times I used it, I found that very confusing, but that's the way it is. Okay, or in this case, the start is 2, and it goes up 2, but does not include 10, but it does it in increments of 2. So we get 2, 4, 6, 8, and it doesn't it doesn't include 10 because it stops just before you get there. Or you can walk backwards on the other hand. In this case, it will start at 5 and step backwards to 0, not including 0, with negative increments. And again, you can do that. Again, I find it a little confusing walking backwards, just like I find it a little confusing using not. And I think we'll see an example of that shortly. Okay, so that's shows how to use for statements, defining for loops using the range function. And range is often commonly used. And this is sometimes called a collection controlled loop. Okay, so now note that I found this slide a little confusing at first, because if you actually try to execute this code, for example, if I say range 5, it doesn't print out 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. It just gives you, echoes back what you entered in there. Or if I say range, if I spell it right, say range 2, 10, 2, which means begin at 2 and go in increments of 2 up to, but not including 10. Again, it just parrots back what you entered. It doesn't actually give you the sequence of numbers. So how can we use this? Well, you can use it like this, right? So when this for statement is executed, Python stores the first integer returned by the range function in the int variable that is defined in the for statement. So you can call this thing anything you want. It doesn't have to be for I in range up to 5. I is sometimes conventionally used, or you might have for loops within each other, and often the notation will be I and J, or even I, J, and K, I suppose, if you have 3 of them together. You need it to be a unique name because it's a variable. It's a user-defined variable. But I, just the letter I by itself is fine. It's an allowable variable. And again, it's just by convention, it's often used in these for loops. Okay, so right. So when the loop finishes going through all of the integers in the collection, it ends. Okay, so this first one will display the integers from 0 to 4. And you've defined an integer variable named I, and it sets the arguments for the range function to 5. Within a loop, a print function sets the I variable to the console, followed by a space. Okay, so we are, I believe print, print has typically the default value for the end argument to print is a new line character, \n. So it's printing, what's going on here is it's printing these things all on the same line. If we didn't have this end equals a blank, a 1 character string variable, it would print 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 on subsequent lines. So just to conserve, we do this. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so let's run this first. Okay, so what are we doing here? This is the second example that's on slide 32. And notice again, we're initializing, this is a user-defined variable, and we're just calling it sum of numbers using underscore notation. We set it to 0. And notice that the reserved words are orange. So it's a visual clue to help remind you what words you can't use as variables. Okay, so 4, and we create a variable I within the range of 1 to 5, and then we're printing the sum of numbers. So this would print, this line here should print 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But then we're taking the value of I, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we're adding it to sum of numbers. So if I'm visualizing this correctly, sum of numbers will be 0, then it will be 1, then it will be 3, I believe, and then it will be 1, 2, 3, 6. And then finally, it will be 10 because we're adding 1 to 0, then we're adding 2 to 1, then we're adding 3 to, here, let's try it. Right, 0, 1, 3, 6, and 10. It added 1 to 0, then it added 2 to 1, then it added 3 to 3, and then it added 4 to 6. Okay, so that's what that does. Now, if we play with this a little bit, and we say print sum of numbers, this is what I wanted to show you from the missing one. We say end equals, put a space in there. This will just simply change the output and print it all on one line, and there should be spaces in there. Let's do that. Whoops, got something on that. So there we go. And it didn't because I have it in the wrong print statement. It should be in this print statement up here. Notice how it automatically put that closing paren in there for me. That's why I made an error here, because I typed it and it had already inserted it. So this should print them all out on one line, except I believe the last one. Here, let's try this. So
Why do you need that last line?
Oh, because that's a good question. This last line will only execute at the very end. Here, let's think about this. Okay, so that's all on the same line. Here, let's go back to your question. Because you're not going to get the final result if you don't.
Oh, okay, yeah, because could you switch print and sum? But then you get rid of the 0, I suppose.
Switch print and sum, you mean put it,
Yeah, put that print argument, the thing after 4, that print statement after 4, after sum of numbers plus equals I.
like this?
No, switch the order of lines 3 and 4.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Oops. Yeah, you know, and it's, I don't know about you all, but it's always the simple things that goof me up. Yep. Then you get the last result within the loop itself.
You don't get the first result, but then it printed the 10 again because we told it to print the 10 again at the very end.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It did not get the first one. But yes, this print is redundant with this one.
Gotcha.
Okay.
But then we need to print at the very beginning to get the 0. Okay, makes sense.
Sure.